Welcome back to another episode of the XRP podcast. Today it's going to be fun because we are going to get inside the whole idea of what Uphold is doing and why they are bringing so many new products to the market, where the market is heading. We'll have an expert talking about that and getting into some detail of the Clarity Act. And I think this is something that we, of course, have talked about here on the show quite a bit here recently. But one of the things that we have seen just in the last few days is a spike in probability of a Clarity Act going through. Does DC have something brewing, and what do people know over on Polymarket? We'll get a chance to share all that and more with Paul Unterberg, who is the Chief Product Officer over at Uphold. He'll be joining me in just a moment. Before we get into that, always I ask of you guys two things, and that, of course, is to subscribe to the channel. If you've got a chance, give us a comment or two. But also, we love to get your feedback, and the feedback that you give us and we, of course, digest is all built around two things. And one is, what ideas and coverage areas do you want us to cover on the show? And then, of course, do you have someone that you think would be a perfect guest here on the podcast? Well, you can leave that in the comments down below or catch me over on X, and we'll talk all about that. Hey, let's go over and bring in Paul today and get going here. How are you, Paul? How's things going there?
Doing great. How are you doing, Paul?
Excellent. We got the double Paul on today, which I like. It's a popular name in the crypto space, I've noticed. We have a bunch of Pauls in the
Yeah.
space. So very cool. Hey, listen, your job over at Uphold is, I think, one of the best jobs, and that is you get to work and build on new products. So first up, before we get into too much of what we're going to talk about today, can you share anything new or tease anything that's going to be new products coming for Uphold?
Yeah, definitely. So I agree. I have the best job probably in all of Uphold, and certainly being a product manager in crypto is one of the best jobs you can have. What I'm really excited about is how the world is moving on chain and the things that we're bringing to allow people to move on chain with that. So we've seen a lot of transition over the past year. All of a sudden, the things that were headwinds that were slowing down adoption of crypto have
Mhm.
become tailwinds. They're accelerating the adoption of this.
For
And
sure.
at Uphold, we're really building the infrastructure to make that happen. So one of the most exciting things that we're doing is a lot more integration with DeFi protocols.
Yeah.
Those DeFi protocols let people get loans without having to sell their crypto. It also allows them to earn a yield in the future on their crypto holdings. So lots of important things going on with that DeFi infrastructure. But that's not it. Because this infrastructure is being plugged into all of the traditional financial rails that we all use every day, banks, ATMs, we are bringing new integrations to market that leverage those financial services. So we have a direct deposit now. You can get paid up to 2 days early, depending on how your payroll processor processes it. And then you get bonus XRP for that payroll because it's such a powerful on ramp to allow people to get access to the blockchain and to get access to crypto services. From there, you can actually spend using a debit card. And of course, you get XRP rewards on that debit
Yep.
card too. So this is really just the convergence of traditional financial services and blockchains. And we're able to do this because blockchains make money move more efficiently. We don't have all of the bureaucracy, all of the layers that you would need to have without a blockchain in order to profitably offer these kinds of services.
We get a lot of new people coming to crypto on this podcast, primarily because they're exploring XRP, or maybe they've covered and been watching what we're doing on the podcast in general, where we talk about blockchain a lot. And one of the things that I always say is that there are a handful of companies that have what I think are ultimate hacks, and Uphold being one of them, in the sense of you kind of have this circular crypto economy. To your point where you mentioned direct deposits, that of course builds more value in XRP. Then of course you roll into a spending account, which also builds more value in XRP. So just by doing your everyday financial activities, you're actually building an XRP bag. So that to me is one of the best things, even if you're just getting into crypto and you're just starting to buy a handful of tokens, whether it's Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, doesn't matter. The fact that you can start to earn rewards on a chain like XRP is pretty amazing. Let's talk a little bit about the area of AI and agentic payments. This is something that continues to intrigue us. We've been covering it for a couple of years now. And to be honest with you, I was a little concerned that we weren't really seeing any advancements, especially around the idea of smart payment agents, which is something I think that everybody is asking about now. When you look at that alone, first of all, where are you guys heading with agentic payments and AI in general? Can you give us some insights?
Yeah, I think AI is one of the most revolutionary things to come along, similar to blockchain. I'm very lucky to be alive when we are now, right? Because I got to see the evolution of crypto and blockchains, and then we got to see the real scale of AI. AI has been around for decades now, but with the advent of large language models and the way that those can interact with people, we're really seeing AI accelerate. So when you talk about AI payments, really you're saying, hey, you have this autonomous agent who is doing something
Yep.
and it needs a way to get paid for that. The example I might use is you are generating some kind of content. Let's say you have your podcast and you want to create an infographic. Instead of having a designer spend time to do all of the image generation and create the right content, you can farm that out to an AI agent. Now, this AI agent may be an autonomous entity, it's just operating under a large language model. And you say, hey, here is my content. Create a YouTube graphic for this, for example. And the agent might pull all of your content, it
Yep.
knows your styles, and it will generate a splash screen for you or an intro screen. And it might say, hey, I need one XRP for that. How will you facilitate that payment? You need to have the infrastructure in place in order to do that. And at its heart, Uphold builds infrastructure, mainly for banks and financial institutions. But part of that infrastructure allows you to provision a wallet. So you can create a crypto wallet, you can fund it with XRP,
Hmm.
and then you can, through our APIs, have an AI agent connect to that wallet and pay another agent or request payment from it. So the APIs, the infrastructure, the same infrastructure that runs our exchange also allows you to integrate with all of these other things because it's composable. It's
Yeah.
just a little piece that you plug in.
Well, I think the point here is that we are in and starting to enter a new era of where automation tools are going to advance in ways that I don't think many people even can realize just yet. The finance sector, I think, is going to be one of the areas that probably reap the most benefits from this because of just one, the amount of data and information that's out there, and the ability for these agents to be able to harvest a lot of that. So this is going to get interesting. Okay, so this kind of leads us into things like tokenized deposits. I know you guys have done some recent partnerships with some banks. Explain to me the model behind how this is going to work within what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, it's really exciting. So we are working with a bank called Vast Bank,
Mm.
and Vast Bank has been an early adopter into crypto. They were one of the first banks to actually
Yeah.
look at how can they offer crypto to their customers. And their next evolution is, hey, if we think about what are dollars? Dollars are really just money inside of a computer system. So why
Yeah.
couldn't that money live on a blockchain? And the big innovation that they've done is they're working with a company called USBC.
Hmm.
USBC is a US banking coin.
Yep.
And USBC is saying, take your existing ledger systems, allow those dollars that are really just digital representations of that to be published onto a blockchain.
Right.
And in that manner, we can then tokenize deposits. When you go to an ATM and you deposit, say, $20, that updates the bank's ledger, which in the same time updates a blockchain. And that dollar now exists on that blockchain. If you
Right.
go to a store and spend that money on a debit card or any way that you can spend it, that then updates the balance. instantly on that blockchain.
I love it.
So you remove all of this friction, all of these like layers of complexity within the system.
Yeah. Well, I think this is the thing that we'll continue to see is the integration between bank and exchange, much like what you guys have done, to where it's almost transparent. Many people won't even know that the activities are happening and probably will start to work so unique. I'm always showing the some of the things you guys are doing, and this to me is one of the biggest that I think a lot of people don't realize is how many assets you have available on Uphold. This is a big deal because if you look at some of the other centralized exchanges and exchanges in general, they don't have that many assets available. How are you guys able to provide so access to so many assets?
Yeah, I think it was by necessity, what Uphold built is a very sophisticated, high frequency trading system.
Mhm.
So, behind Uphold, what is happening is we are constantly going to different centralized and decentralized exchanges to source the crypto that our users want to buy. And because we're plugged into those, we're able then to offer tokens that maybe other exchanges or
Yeah,
other venues can't offer. Now, of course, everything we're highly regulated, so it goes through a listing committee. We make sure that the tokenomics are sound. We make sure that it's not something that we couldn't list or that shouldn't be listed. But then we are usually one of the first exchanges to offer cryptos that others just can't list because
yeah,
they don't have our liquidity engine.
yeah. Well, I think that's one of the big values of it and the unique little tool that I think a lot of people maybe underestimate in terms of its power, and that is the early token listings. When you get
That's
a
right.
new listing out there, I was talking to some of the guys last year at the XRP Vegas event backstage, and we were getting into this very topic of how new assets were coming on board, what you guys go through to get it done, and then obviously the access. What's a typical new token entry by the time that it hits your new token advisory notice on the website before it goes into the regular, to where anybody would just start buying it? What how much time do I have?
It really depends on how much traction the token has, right? There's
Okay.
some tokens like Zebek that got a lot of
Yeah.
traction really quickly. So that's something that we can look at. We can quickly add other tokens, like when Trump launched, right? That
Yeah.
token launched on a weekend and we listed it at the end of that weekend. So it's really depends on the traction and the encouragement. And I really encourage all of our users, if you see a token and you say, hey, this is something that I think would really be useful on Uphold, reach out to us.
Yeah.
Let us know on X, let us know in social channels, and say, hey, you should take a look at this because I think that this has real utility, this has real value.
Well, I was just looking at your market page here, which gets into a lot of that in terms of discovery of the recently added ones right here. You've got USD1 on here now, Prove, CCD Unite, which has been talked about out there. You guys can click that right there. And of course, it gives you access to a lot of the newly listed ones. So there's Canton, Midnight, Monad, etc. Um, this is unique to me because we have a lot of people that are not sure about new projects. So it's cool that you guys go through and really vet how these come on board, check the tokenomics, really start to look at the structure of it. Do you think we're going to see more or less new projects coming to market once we get past the Clarity Act? What do you think?
Yeah, I think when you have clear regulations, it tends to open the doors a lot more.
Yeah,
So you will see more tokens come to market, but I think you'll really see higher quality tokens and really well thought out utility thesis to those tokens
right.
that they're trying to solve a specific problem or a specific niche. And now they have the regulatory clarity to say, yes, you can go ahead and do this, and you're not going to get shut down by some capricious regulator.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned at the beginning of the show the idea of earning yield and then also being able to go into DeFi. We've had Flair on our show here talking about that with Hugo directly. The power of what it's done to XRP in terms of taking idle assets, putting them into DeFi and being able to really expose this. With the partnership with Flare, first of all, explain how it works, and then how do you guys actually implement it to where we can get yield and do all sorts of DeFi tools on
Yeah.
Uphold?
Yeah, so we've been working with the Flare team as they've been evolving what they do. And for your listeners who aren't quite aware, Flare is bringing DeFi capabilities to XRP.
Yeah.
Now, before we get too deep into Flare, I just want to say there is a lot of interest in XRP DeFi, and there are many, many projects that are working in the space, including proposals on native XRPL DeFi
Right.
primitives. So lots to come. There's a lot happening in this space. It's probably one of the most exciting spaces in DeFi right now. But going back to Flare, Flare has solved the problem of, okay, we need some way to deploy your XRP in order to do things that will generate a yield or generate liquidity.
Mhm.
And so the first step that we're doing at Uphold is allowing a user to take their XRP and to mint FXRP, which is
Yep.
the version of wrapped XRP on the Flare network. Once we have that, then we're going to build different protocols or different ways to deploy that FXRP to start to earn a yield. There's a lot of very interesting products out there that are really just building in this space. So there's a product called Firelight.
Yep.
Firelight provides DeFi insurance protocols, but they need FXRP in order to run that. So we're working with them to be one of the places where you can deploy FXRP. We're also looking at borrow and lending protocols. That's probably one of the most common areas that people
Mhm.
use to generate a yield on DeFi. So we're looking to integrate those borrow and lending protocols that exist both on Flare, but also in adjacent ecosystems tied around XRP.
I want to take a minute, guys, and just invite you to join the Barron Market Edge private member group. You guys can do that by just clicking the link down in our description. This is your insider's edge to the AI and crypto money revolution, which is what we really focus on here on PBN. This is additional research that I do along with our team. We have a pretty significant team on our research around not only what guides our episodes, but a lot of that research gets built into more content that I drop here on the Barron Market Edge. We do market trends and sentiment analysis, which can be anything from tokens to all sorts of strategies. This, of course, will also guide you over to our Telegram group, and we give this as elite community access. You get bonus content over there, including tax guides, as well as different kinds of asset guides out there that we drop all the time. This is your 10-year vision in action. All you have to do, of course, is just hit that little subscribe button or join the community and get in on it. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a thing, so check it out. Do you think that with the idea of, especially with XRP now basically going into DeFi, which Flare, of course, their uniqueness is they enable it to be able to basically get into a smart contract utility with XRP. So, do you think that this is going to, because I'm on the fence on whether or not we would see large XRP holders start to move their assets into something like this, or could they go into maybe some other platforms out there that also, maybe not in the way that it's worked with Flare? I guess the question is do you think there's going to be a lot more competition in this area, or do you think it will kind of correlate around maybe Flare and a handful of other companies that are doing this?
I think there will be a lot more competition. And, I think what Ripple has done is create an ecosystem, right? And that ecosystem allows people to really permissionlessly launch things like Flare. If
Yeah,
Flare, I don't think got permission from anyone to build what they're doing. They just
exactly.
got, they're just going to build it.
Yeah.
And when you have open markets like that, when you have the ability for people to come in and create new technologies powered now by things like AI, right? Where you can actually deploy contracts and build things pretty quickly and do security audits to make sure they're safe, you're going to see a lot more innovation. You're going to see a lot more people who are trying out new things. Now, what you tend to see with all markets is that the majority of assets will eventually end in a few leading players, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a few big items that capture the bulk of this
Mhm.
activity. But you will see more competition, and I believe that you'll see a lot more, especially as XRP opens the gateway to people to see what's possible with these assets.
Is this going to eventually also allow you to participate like in lending and borrowing? We're starting to see that rise in interest area. Would that also open that up?
Yes, definitely. It is something that we are even running tests on now. So a few
Okay.
users on Uphold have actually agreed to test out a direct DeFi protocol integration that we have. There's a protocol called the Exactly protocol,
Okay.
and they're running on Bitcoin and Ethereum now, but it allows you to take out loans based on the value of your crypto. And
Yeah.
we talk about this a lot internally at Uphold. The thing that crypto lets you do is remove the barriers that used to exist for people to operate like billionaires. So if you think about,
Yeah.
what a billionaire does, they don't actually sell their stock in their companies. They
Nope.
take loans out against it. And crypto allows you to do those same things through these borrow lend protocols. So if you
Mhm.
have a lot of any asset, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, you can take out a loan and use the value of that, and then you can pay back that loan over time through fiat. You don't have to
Yep.
sell your crypto, but that allows you to get that liquidity and get that utility from it without having to sell it while the asset moves in value.
I think a lot of people misunderstand that because what we have seen in this space, and we've tested this on a handful of products out there. What I'm finding, even though it is a flex rate, what I'm finding is that in most cases, the rate is lower than what the open market is out there charging from a traditional bank. So this is by far one of the biggest wealth hacks that we talk about on this show. I talk about it in our high net worth individual and business webinars and seminars that we do. And business owners are blown away at this when they see that capability of, hey, listen, I own Bitcoin or I own Ethereum or I own XRP. You're telling me that I can literally go out and get an LTV of 50% at a low interest rate and never sell my asset. And of course, they don't realize that this is something they've been doing in real estate or in, tokenized treasuries or treasuries for a while, that it's available in crypto. Do you think this will become a major part of, your business and others out there as things start to evolve here in the crypto space?
I believe so. I think that we are investing a lot of engineering effort, a lot of product effort to bring these protocols into the experience.
Okay.
And I think it's going to grow more and more. Not so much in that, hey, we're going to be issuing these loans, because the DeFi protocols are the ones that operate that. So we
Yeah.
can't really control the rates. But
Right.
what we can do is give access to them. And that's what Uphold has historically been really good at, is we make it simple for people to access these things. You don't have to go and sign this contract or sign that
Right.
contract and worry about, okay, who is holding the tokens in the back end. We simplify all of those flows for a user to participate in these new things.
Well, I think the complexity is one of the holdbacks right now, and we have seen integrated products like this on exchanges that seem to be getting more. Well, we know they're getting more traction because we're seeing the loan values of what's happening in crypto just continuously climb. So that's going to be huge. What would be the timeline? What can I expect as an Uphold user to where I can go in and say, I'm ready to take a loan on my Bitcoin or my Ethereum? When could I do that pretty much ad hoc?
Yeah, so we are going to be launching that publicly. It's right now it's in closed beta for a
Mhm.
select group of testers, but in around a month's time. So, it's
Wow.
late February now. So, we are working
Fantastic.
very hard to do that. And the first state that we're going to launch in is Florida. That's one of our biggest states. And that's also where we see a concentration of people who have crypto who want to use it for this based on our user
Yeah.
surveys. So, we will scale it from there. But look for that in about let's say mid-March timelines. Don't hold me to that exact timeline, but we will make a lot of noise when this is open. The
Yeah.
way it will work is you can go into Uphold, you can deposit your collateral, and you can do two things. One, you get a Visa credit card. That Visa credit card allows you to spend anywhere that Visa is accepted. And that each swipe opens up a fixed rate loan. So you have your Bitcoin as collateral, you swipe your card, you buy a television, and you can then choose to repay that over 8 payment terms and never sell your crypto because you can pay with your fiat, you can pay with other sources.
And this is a credit card, not a debit card.
This is a credit card. Yes.
Okay. So the credit card is just holding the asset. Do you get to choose like your LTV on it?
The protocol is the one who sets the LTV, so we're
Okay.
we're integrating with a DeFi protocol for this. But you can choose, which assets you want to contribute to the protocol, and most importantly, you can choose how you want to pay back those with fiat, with other
Yeah.
assets, in predictable time frames, because this is all fixed rate.
Interesting. Fixed rate. Any spending bonuses by chance?
We'll look at that. We'll
Okay.
see just how things uptake. Now, this is one of those like we are just building in the integration to the DeFi protocol. We don't
Yep.
actually operate the DeFi protocol,
Yeah.
so we're partnering with a DAO called Exactly Labs for
Yep.
this first test. Then soon after that, you should start to see things like Flare appear in the app. You should start to
Okay.
see other things longer term that we're working with. I can't announce them all now, but lots of very influential crypto projects are now looking at how can they get more access
Yeah.
to communities like XRP and tying those in.
Well, I think the key here is, and will eventually become one of the cornerstones of DeFi, is that we're going to see everyday people that are experiencing or possibly experimenting with crypto for the first time. They're going to get opened up to this, and they already know because they're doing credit card loans, they're doing all sort car loans, you name the kind of loans out there. So they already are experiencing this with banks. I think in many cases, a lot of people don't realize when they have assets, especially liquid assets like what you have with crypto, that you can easily gain access to this. And the beauty of it, it doesn't hit your credit,
That's right.
which is huge for a lot of people
That-
in most cases. So think about that, guys.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
alone
Very exciting.
is a big deal. I love it. Hey, listen, one thing that you guys, I always tell people, and I show this in our seminars a lot. I want to share this with the audience real quick because I don't know that everybody always pays attention to some of the things you guys do. One is that the Uphold platform always 100% reserved. Explain that.
Yeah. So when you trade on Uphold, Uphold is the counterparty for your trades.
Yeah.
So in the back end, we are managing inventory, we're sourcing liquidity, we're making sure that we can fulfill all of the trades that people have. And where that matters is especially in these less liquid tokens. So if you're trying to trade on DeFi,
Yeah.
you may actually move the market a huge amount if you're buying a low liquidity coin. With Uphold, we actually aggregate all of that across different exchanges.
Uh-huh.
So you don't move the market as much. There's not as much slippage, or there's no slippage on our quote. But we then take that, and 99% of our assets are in cold storage, and we publish our reserves. That's the second point here. But your assets are always held in kind. It's not like
Right.
we're giving you an IOU or we're saying,
Yeah.
okay, we'll give you this crypto. If you buy Bitcoin on Uphold, we hold that Bitcoin in cold storage, ready to give it to you when you want to do something with it.
I love the other fact that I think this is the killer app of crypto, and also I think for exchanges in general and companies like yourself, is that in the banking industry, there's this thing called fractional reserve lending. You put in $10, they loan out 100 of based on your $10 deposit. So this is the kind of situation that I think banks and the average American do not know what's going on. So the fact that you guys are never loaning the funds out is amazing. Your money is always available when you need it. That's a big, big factor that I think is going to become more of a selling point in the. You guys should put that on the front page of the website more often. But
Yeah, it's going to
that's a
become
huge.
law too, I think, right? It's going to
Yeah, exactly.
become
Yeah,
like you're going to have to do it. So I'm glad that we are already ahead of the curve there.
yeah, for sure. Let's talk about clarity because this is really becoming a big issue. Right now, I was looking on Polymarket this morning. Let me see if I can pull it up. the poly market has absolutely skyrocketed on the potential for Clarity Act. So last week we were at 55% on the 16th. Here's the 17th, we're climbing, and then boom, we are rolling into right now 72% of the 71% of the likelihood of getting Clarity through. Why do you think all of a sudden we're seeing a massive spike in the probability occurring?
I think there's been a lot of summits and a lot of meetings that have recently happened, and each side is getting to make sure that their voice is heard. I also think that the president has really pushed through that, hey, I want to get this signed. This is a key cornerstone of my
Yep.
policy agenda. We are going to become the crypto innovation capital of the world in the US, and we need to have this clarity to enable that. So I think there's been a lot more meetings, a lot more discussions, and the different parties, the different sides are coming closer together.
Yeah. Well, it's getting, we of course have some pretty good contacts in DC sources that we constantly talk to. We interview quite a bit of the congressional staff up there, including a lot of the lobbyists. And everybody that we're texting with and emailing with right now is telling me that it appears that there is some sort of deal. They cannot reveal yet that this has been for sure, but I just was on with one of the lobbyists last night, and the indicators right now is this is getting stronger by the minute. So it's very possible we could have this thing go through. Let's talk about the current market before I let you go, because this is something that everybody asks me all the time. Paul, we're in a bull market. Now we're in a bear market. We moved quickly, into that position, possibly the fastest that we've seen a market retrace, especially if you consider 2021 or even 2017. What are some of the things that, investors can do to, one, weather a true bear market and also take advantage of it, especially within the Uphold platform?
Yeah. So, caveat, not financial advice. I think that
Sure.
goes without saying, but I have seen a lot of crypto cycles. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2011. And so I have seen the rise and fall of all kinds of crypto
Yeah.
cycles.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that I advise people is it's time in the market that matters. And so if you can take advantage of dips by continuing to set up recurring buys, dollar cost average, where you spend the same amount regardless of what the price of that asset
Right.
is, that can help you just
Mhm.
build up a bigger position. The thing to remember about crypto is it is a transformational technology for the financial system. And transformational technologies are incredibly hard to price. You
Right.
don't know what it is that you're actually, but you don't have the same kind of earnings reports that a
Mm.
public company will put out. So a lot of it is infrastructure. And as you're thinking about infrastructure, it takes a long time for infrastructure to get integrated. It takes a long time for that to become the way that financial systems operate. We're getting a lot closer now. And I think that's why the value of crypto overall has gone from nothing to trillions of dollars. But there are cycles to everything. And that's why it helps to dollar cost average. It also helps to use these DeFi patterns that exist
Right.
now so that you can, hey, everyone needs to pay their bills. You can use some of your crypto as collateral and not have to sell it. Panic selling tends to not work out so well, especially when assets drop precipitously.
Yeah.
That's probably the worst time to sell is everyone else is selling. The Warren Buffett quote is, when there's blood in the streets is when you want to buy. And so,
Yeah.
um, I think everyone has their own risk tolerance. Everyone has their own thesis for investing in this. Stick to your plan and dollar cost average in where you can.
DCA. Well, it's always the safe route. I think the key thing you hit on there is one, maybe it's an opportunity to diversify your portfolio, start to look at some other assets that have maybe come down and you never had a chance to get those before because they were priced up so much in terms of the gains in the last bull market. So that's an opportunity. The big component I think you just hit on, which is the don't sell, hold the bag, and look at creative ways in DeFi to be able to extend that beyond the bear market, because that's the key. This is a matter of time. And time is what heals these markets in many cases. So I do agree with you. The opportunity for this is going to be huge going forward. This is going to be a good one. We are going to have you guys back on soon. We will probably see you out at the XRP Las Vegas event. That'll be a huge one. And we definitely want to get into that with, I think we've got Uphold coming on the stage out there. Maybe that'll be the next time that we get to talk about some of your new products. So I can't wait. That's May. So you guys will have some things launched by then for sure.
We will, and we'll have much more to announce there. I'm very excited about that show.
I love it. I love it. Paul Unterberg coming in from Uphold. Thank you so much for stopping in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. All right, you guys know what to do. If you have not already done it and you are this far into the podcast, whether you're listening to the audio version or you're watching here on YouTube, make sure and just subscribe to the show right now. By the way, this podcast hit #1 on the fastest growth podcast in the finance sector on Spotify and Apple iTunes. So all because of you guys. Definitely is one of the reasons this media platform is growing so fast. So we thank you guys for doing that. We will catch you next time right here on the XRP podcast. Take care.